The Scottish regional government has fallen into a government crisis after First Minister Humza Yousaf broke up his Scottish National Party's coalition with the Greens, thereby losing its parliamentary majority. The Greens called his move cowardly and said they would support a vote of no confidence in the head of government this week. When I filmed this, it hasn't happened yet. The majority for Yousaf could then depend on the vote of a single MP, Regan, who lost the SNP leadership contest to Yousaf about a year ago and subsequently left the party. The Scottish government had set an ambitious climate target in its coalition agreement, but will miss it, as I talked about in a recent video. The coalition between the Greens and the SNP has now broken up over this, and the latter now wants to form a minority government. Scotland's First Minister Humza Yousaf has terminated this cooperation with the Greens. Quite unexpected, I have to say. He will lead a minority government in the future, as he said, and although this could make government work more difficult, it would be in the best interest of the people of Scotland. As I said, the government misses the agreed climate targets, and the reason for the rift is the dispute over the climate policy. A week ago, the government announced that it would be cancelling an important climate target, and a minister admitted that the plan to reduce emissions of climate-damaging greenhouse gases by 75% by 2030 could not be achieved. However, this goal had been agreed in the coalition agreement. This led to anger among the Greens, as did the decision to stop giving puberty blockers to minors at a clinic. The party announced that it would vote on future cooperation with the ruling Scottish National Party. And SNP leader Yousaf has now anticipated this decision. The SNP narrowly missed an absolute majority in the 2021 regional elections and then agreed to work together with the Greens, who also support independence from Great Britain. Two Green Party politicians also received cabinet positions. The SNP has 63 of 129 seats in the Scottish Parliament and the Greens have 7. The Conservative Party has 31 MSPs, and the Labour Party has 22. And the SNP has been in government in Scotland since 2011. The left Liberal Scottish regional government was the first in the world to declare a climate emergency. The economy in this part of the British, I almost said empire, has long been dependent on oil and gas projects in the North Sea. And recently, the leadership in Edinburgh has increasingly focused on renewable energies and wants to promote projects such as green hydrogen. The Conservative British central government in London, on the other hand, is committed to expanding oil and gas production and has watered down its climate promises despite criticism from within its own ranks. And last week, Scottish Minister Mary McAllen blamed the central government for failing to achieve one of its targets. However, Scotland wants to stick to its commitment to achieve net zero emissions by 2045. In addition to problems with meeting the ambitious interim climate targets, the SNP's gender policy also led to political upheavals in Scotland. For example, the decision to expand the hate crimes law. The aim is above all to take better action against hatred against trans people, for example, and activists for women's rights, such as the author of the Harry Potter novels J.K. Rowling, sharply criticized the law. However, Scotland's decision to officially introduce gender self-identification was banned by the government in London. There were also disputes within the party. Yousaf wanted to change the jurisprudence in rape cases from the current system that relies on juries to a system in which only judges can decide on such cases. And MSPs from his own wing of the SNP, including his former party leadership rival Kate Forbes, abstained from voting in the recent vote on the law. In a survey by the opinion research portal YouGov in mid-April, the Labour Party, once devastated in Scotland, managed to overtake the SNP in popularity ratings for the first time in almost 2 decades. 33% of Scottish voters said they would vote Labour today, while just 31% would vote for the SNP. And Scottish Tory party leader Douglas Ross announced a few hours after Yousaf's decision in the Scottish Parliament that he would table a motion of no confidence in Yousaf as First Minister. But while we're talking about Scotland, we can also clarify one more question until we know how this vote ends. All countries send exactly one team to the European Championships, except for Great Britain, and I'll briefly explain to you why two of the islands' teams, namely England and Scotland, are represented at the European Championships. There is a never-ending debate among football fans about which is the greatest football nation. The shortlist for this title is Great Britain as the home of the sport. But why isn't this country sending a joint national team to the 2024 European Football Championships here in Germany? Its role as the birthplace of football is also the origin of many of Great Britain's national teams. Even before there were any official rules for the sport, the first clubs already existed in Scotland and England. The first international match in the history of football was played between the English and Scottish players in 1872. And since independent football associations were already formed in the various parts of Great Britain in this early phase, there are no nationwide structures such as the German DFB. And this means that the association's participations in the European Championship has often been prevented by their own compatriots. For example, in 2000, when Scotland was denied participation in the European Championships in the Netherlands and Belgium due to failure in the game against England. In addition to the two teams, Scotland and England, that regularly appear at the major tournaments, the United Kingdom also has two other teams. Both Wales and the small country of Northern Ireland each have their own football associations and therefore their own national teams. However, the two are not too successful. They only appear on the big football stage every now and then, usually quite unexpectedly. And this is how Wales managed to be admitted to the last World Cup in Qatar. Of course, the team failed there in the preliminary round, but at least they made it just as far as the German national team that time. Northern Ireland also recently appeared on the international football map and made it to the round of 16 of the European Championship in 2016. However, neither team was able to qualify for the European Championships in Germany this time. Even if the various football associations in the United Kingdom do not always agree, they have time and again made an exception and joined forces for the Olympics. Individual teams are not allowed at the Olympic Games, and there are no special regulations for the island state. This British football selection last competed at the 2012 Olympics in London and lost on penalties in the quarterfinals. This time, none of the British football associations will be taking part in the Summer Olympics in Paris in 2024 though. But the 2024 European Football Championships will take place here in Germany, and the opening game also fits very well into this video, because in the opening game on June 14th, Germany will host the Scottish team. As much as I do like Scotland and as much as I give you any assistance I can via my videos for the Scottish independence and another referendum if the central government ever will allow it, in that match you will forgive me that I am for Germany this time. And if you want to see more, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.